In the rugged, forest-clad terrain of the Dangrek Mountain, a remote and historically contested frontier that separates the Kingdom of Cambodia from the Kingdom of Thailand, a fragile peace has been violently shattered. A long-simmering border dispute, rooted in the complex colonial-era maps and overlapping territorial claims, has erupted into open hostility, forcing hundreds of Cambodian families to abandon their homes and flee for their lives. The sudden escalation, marked by the thunder of artillery and the encroaching presence of Thai soldiers, has transformed quiet rural villages into zones of fear and panic, creating a burgeoning humanitarian crisis and threatening to ignite a wider, more dangerous conflict in a region already navigating complex geopolitical currents. The immediate focus of the crisis is a stretch of land near the ancient cliff-top temple of Preah Vihear, site of immense cultural and national pride for Cambodia and a perennial source of tension with its larger western neighbor. For the Cambodian villagers living in the shadow of the temple, life has long been dictated by the rhythm of agriculture and the ebb and flow of a tense but generally stable border. That stability has now evaporated, replaced by the terrifying uncertainty of war. The initial reports of trouble emerged from the small Cambodian village of Suay Trum, nestled in a valley just a few kilometers from the dispute demarcation line. According to villagers who managed to escape, the crisis began without warning in the late afternoon. What started as a series of distant, muffled thuds quickly grew into a sustained and terrifying artillery barrage. Shells fired from positions they identified as being inside Thai territory began to rain down on the outskirts of the village. The explosion sent shockwave through the ground and filled the air with the smell of cordite and upturned earth. Panic immediately gripped the community. Families who had been tending their rice paddies or feeding their livestock scrambled for cover, shouting for their children and loved ones. The shelling was not aimed at any clear military target. It appeared to be indiscriminated, landing in fields, on dirt roads, and perilously close to homes built of sample woods and corrugated tin. The psychological impact was immediate and devastating. It was an unambiguous message that their homes were no longer safe. As the bombardment continued, the first wave of terrified villagers began to flee. They left with nothing but their clothes on their back, grabbing their children by the hands and running eastward, away from the border and the terrifying sounds of the explosion. Shortly after the shelling began, Cambodian Border Patrol units reported observing movements of Thai infantry and light armor vehicle crossing into territory that Cambodia has long administered and considered its sovereign soil. The Thai troops were not launching a full-scale invasion in the traditional sense, but rather a methodical, creeping advance. They moved to occupy key high-ground positions, hills, and ridgelines that overlook the Cambodian plains below. This tactic, known as salami slicing, involves taking small, incremental pieces of territory in the hope that each individual action is too small to provoke a major military response. For the villagers of Suay Shrum and neighboring communities like Pol Kuki, the effect was the same as a full invasion. The sight of foreign soldiers digging new trenches lined and establishing fortified positions on land they considered their own was a terrifying and final confirmation that they could not return. Their homes, their farms, and their entire way of life had been seized. The exodus quickly became a torrent. The single dirt road leading away from the border became choked with people. Entire families were packed onto small motorbikes. The adult grin-faced, the children weeping with fears and confusion. Others piled what few possessions they could salvage. A bag of rice, a few chickens, some cooking pots, onto wooden carts pulled by skeletal oxen. The most vulnerable, the elderly, and the sick, were carried on the back of younger relatives or pushed in makeshift wheelbarrows. The journey was arduous and filled with peril. The fear of renewed shelling was constant, forcing the fleeing crowds to scatter and dive for cover at any loud noise. Rumors spread like wildfire through the columns of displaced people. Stories of Thai patrols setting up checkpoints, of landmines being led, and of people who had been cut off and trapped. The Cambodian government, caught off guard by the speed and intensity of the escalation, scrambled to respond. The provincial governor of Preah Vihear province declared a state of emergency for the entire border region and dispatched police and soldiers not to fight back, which could risk a full-blown war, but to assist in the evacuation of civilians. In the Cambodian capital, Phnom Penh, the government reacted with a mixture of outrage and diplomatic urgency. The Cambodian Ministry of Foreign Affairs issued a series of strongly worded protest notes to the Thai embassy condemning what it called a flagrant violations of Cambodian sovereignty and a grave breach of international law and the UN Charter. The Cambodian Ministry of Defense placed its border force on high alert but was careful to order them to avoid direct engagement with the Thai troops unless fired upon. The Cambodian government is acutely aware of its military inferiority compared to the much larger, better funded, and more technological advanced Thai armed force. An all-out war is a conflict that Cambodia cannot win. Instead, Phnom Penh has launched a frantic diplomatic effort appealing to the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, to intervene and mediate the dispute, and calling for an emergency session of the United Nations Security Council to address the Thai aggression. The Prime Minister of Cambodia gave a televised address to the nation, calling for calm and national unity, while vowing that his government would use all peaceful and diplomatic means to reclaim every inch of lost Cambodian territory. The Thai government, for its part, has presented a starkly different narrative of the events. From Bangkok, officials have denied any act of aggression. The Royal Thai Army issued a statement claiming that its troops were conducting routine patrols entirely within Thailand's own sovereign borders. It asserted that the land now occupied by its soldiers has always been considered Thai territory, based on its own set of historical maps and boundary interpretations that differ significantly from Cambodia's. Thai military spokesmen have accused the Cambodian side of provoking the incident, alleging that Cambodian border guards had fired on a Thai patrol first, forcing the Thai military to take necessary and proportionate measures to ensure the safety of its personnel and protect its territorial integrity. The Thai government has dismissed Cambodia's diplomatic protests and has stated that the border dispute is a bilateral issue that must be resolved through direct negotiations between Bangkok and Phnom Penh, implicitly rejecting any role for third-party mediators like ASEAN or the United Nations. This position is seen by Cambodia as a tactic to leverage its superior power in one-on-one talks, free from the constraint of international pressure. As the diplomatic wrangling continues, the humanitarian situations on the ground in Preah Vihear province is becoming more desperate by the hour. The displaced villagers, numbering in the thousands, are arriving in towns and administrative centers further inland with nothing. They are finding temporary shelter wherever they can. Schoolhouses have been converted into crowded dormitories, their classrooms filled with families sleeping on thin mats on the floor. Buddhist pagodas and monasteries have opened their doors, the monks sharing their limited food and space with the displaced. The Cambodian Red Cross and other local aid groups are struggling to cope with the influx. There is an urgent need for basic supplies, clean drinking water, food, blankets, mosquito nets, and medical care. Many of the children are sick with respiratory infections and diarrhea from the ordeal of their flight and the unsanitary conditions in the makeshift camps. The emotional and psychological trauma is immense. Parents struggle to comfort terrified children, while older villagers, many of whom are survivors of the Khmer Rouge genocide, are being re-traumatized by the renewed violence and the loss of their homes. The escalating border crisis between Thailand and Cambodia has not gone unnoticed in Washington, D.C., but it presents a complex and unwelcome diplomatic challenge for the administrations of President Donald Trump. The United States maintains important and long-standing relationships with both countries. Thailand is a major non-NATO ally and a key partner in regional security initiatives. While the U.S. has also invested in building a relationship with Cambodia, the administration's response has been cautious, calibrated to avoid alienating either side while trying to prevent the conflict from spiraling out of control. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has become the lead voice for the administrations on the issue. He has spoken by phone with the foreign ministers of both Thailand and Cambodia, urging both sides to exercise maximum restraint and take immediate steps to de-escalate the situation. In a press statement, Secretary Rubio called for a halt to all military activity and for a return to diplomatic negotiation table. He emphasized that the United States does not take a position on the underlying sovereignty claims of the border dispute, but strongly support the use of peaceful mechanisms for its resolution. He offered American assistance in facilitating dialogue, but stopped short of issuing any condemnations of the Thai military actions, a reflection of the delicate balancing act required to manage the alliance with Bangkok. Pentagon, under the leadership of Secretary of Defense Preah Vihear, is monitoring the military situations on the Thai-Cambodian border with high-tech surveillance assets. Secretary Vihear has confirmed that the Department of Defense is observing a buildup of forces on both sides of the border and has expressed concern about the potential for miscalculation leading to a wider conflict. The crisis has forced the Pentagon to quietly review its extensive military cooperation with Thailand, which includes the massive annual Cobra Gold joint military exercise. While no change have been announced, a continuation of the conflict will make it politically difficult to proceed with such high-profile demonstrations of military partnership. Secretary Vihear's primary concern is regional stability. A hot conflict between two members of ASEAN would be highly destabilizing and could create a vacuum that all the global powers, particularly China, would be eager to exploit. This geopolitical angle is a major focus for the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Her agency is providing President Trump with detailed assessment of the motivations behind the escalation. There is a strong belief within the intelligence community that the timing of the Thai action may be influenced by the broader global context, including the perceptions of a more inwardly focused United States under the America First policy. The intelligence assessments also focus heavily on the role of China, which has become Cambodia's primary political and economic patron. DNI Gabbard has reportedly warned the president that Beijing may seek to use the crisis to its advantage, perhaps by offering to mediate or by providing military support to Cambodia, thereby further cementing its influence in Southeast Asia and marginalizing the United States. The conflict also has implications for American economic interests in the region. Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick has expressed concerns that an expanding conflict could threaten the security of regional supply chains and disrupt the operations of American businesses invested in both Thailand and Cambodia. The United States Trade Representative Jamison Greer has similarly noted that border clashes and instability are detrimental to the trade and investment climate within the entire Asian bloc, a region of growing importance to the American economy. Back on the dusty roads of Preah Vihear province, these high-level geopolitical considerations are a world away from the immediate reality of survival. For a displaced Cambodian farmer named Chia Sok, who now sits with his wife and 3 small children in the crowded courtyard of a provincial school, future is a terrifying blank. He spoke of the life he had lost. His small rice farm, which had been in his family for generations, is now on the other side of a new hostile military frontier. The water buffalo he saved for years to buy was left behind. He does not know if his small wooden house is still standing. His primary emotions is not anger, but a profound and paralyzing fear. He fears for his children's future. He fears the sound of shelling, and he fears that the world has forgotten about him and his village, a tiny and insignificant pawn in a much larger game being played by powerful forces far beyond his control. His story And the story of thousands like him is the human face of the cold, hard lines on a contested map. A tragic testament to the enduring power of borders to bring violence and suffering to the people who lives along them. Many of my listeners, like 70%, haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel. So many of you don't even know that you haven't subscribed. And that is actually what makes the show going. It's almost like you're making a donation to the show. So that's why I ask again and again, because it enables us to grow and grow and grow. And we're going for the long haul here. And listen, this is your first time listening to Sokhain Rich. You don't have to subscribe. You guys, your first one's on me. But if you have watched the show before, it's like you are a freeloader now. So all I would ask you is, if you have seen the show before and you like it, help me, help my team here. Hit that subscribe and like button now, and we will continue to build the show for you. That I swear. Thank you to all of you guys who have subscribed. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much. That's all for me for today. We'll see you soon. Bye for now.